That was crisp.
That was Chris.
Look at those voice waves. Look at those sound waves, man. This was your sound waves.
Look at the sound waves.
That was yours. You see how skinny that is?
Look at the sounds.
Oh shit, that was whack.
Even my noises are bantamweight, man.
Bantamweight. Bantam?
You know what bantamweight is?
No, I know what phantom weight is.
It's like the lightweight. It's like a $140.
That's phantom
That's
weight.
not me though, isn't it? I thought it was band. I think it's BANTAM.
It's phantom weight.
I'm pretty sure it's
bantam. If it's bantamweight, I'm gonna be pissed off.
Why?
I don't know. Because that's dumb.
Damn.
Okay. All right. You know what? I know what to talk about.
What are we talking about?
So you're 24 years old, right?
As of this previous Monday. Yes, sir.
You're 24. I'm 23. And I'm not comparing myself to you when I say this, but we have two different, we have two different people, similar age, who are in completely different, positions in life.
Sure.
So I live with my parents, and I'm actually moving out hopefully by October 20th. Mm-hmm. And I'm just barely starting to work for myself, and I'm just barely starting to be able to provide for myself at the age of 23.
Sure.
You're 24. You have purchased your own home, and you're in a really good relationship, and I would say that you're, in my eyes, extremely successful.
Thank you.
So what do you think, if you were to just, obviously you don't know my life and things like that, but what do you think are the main differences that would cause, such a difference in life when it comes to success between me and you?
Man.
And I also want you to say, I'm not taking, this is completely rational conversation. I don't want you to think that you're putting me down at all with anything that you're saying. I'm genuinely curious. And I say that because, the 7 habits of highly effective people, and I felt I'm pretty sure you have some really good habits that you've instilled in your life.
Sure.
That, I either don't have or that I've struggled with.
Okay. So I guess part of it depends on how you define success. I do appreciate those words, though. But how long do you think... How do I want to phrase this? How long have you been working? And you can quantify working however you want. And that can be for yourself in general, since you started powerlifting. I mean, when I say work, I more so mean maybe spending the majority of your time in pursuit of something greater, something more, money. I mean, whatever that may be. You know what I mean? I would maybe powerlifting would be the first time that you truthfully worked as.
Wait, so when you say work, are you saying working as a job, or are you saying just working putting in hard work?
Putting in hard work. Dedicated effort to something that you're trying to see a result.
I guess all my life, but it's mostly pertains to sports.
Okay.
Wherever I do put in the most work, it's mostly about sports or something to do with physical fitness. And there's not, or at least the routes that I went, there wasn't any payouts in that, and maybe I obsessed with them too much instead of, having a balanced life when it came to also building up my finances and other parts of my life.
Man, so I can't, I haven't sat down and analyzed it or anything like that, but what I will say is I've always been pretty goal oriented in most things, and I've always gotten a little, maybe addicted is the wrong word, but obsessed with not only getting to that goal, but finding the best way to do it. Best way meaning most sustainable, most efficient, if that makes sense.
It does.
So for example, I'll talk about it in a standard of, finances. Mm-hmm. So, up until I was 18, I was making $8.50 an hour.
Okay.
When I was 18, I was working the front desk at PAC. They make $8.50 an hour. you make like $10 or $20 on a membership, whatever it was, if if John actually paid you on it.
Yeah.
But so I knew I wanted to be a trainer, but what I realized was, man, I went and I got my training certification, and suddenly my time was worth $24 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so suddenly I could take home the same amount of money in an hour doing something that was much more enjoyable, taking someone through exercise rather than just sitting at a desk. I could make 3 times the amount of money in, a third of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, or excuse me, 3 times the amount of money in the same amount of time. So at that point, I kind of got obsessed with the idea of efficiency, and you kind of find that in different routes, as far as like, I spend a lot of time reading because I think that's investing in myself, and I think that's going to be more efficient in the long term. I spend a lot of time trying to educate myself because, again, I think that's going to make me more valuable in the long term. So I don't know, man, maybe it's thinking a little bit more long term, but I also think it might just be like, it might just be scenario. Like maybe I've been in a scenario for more of my life, and that could be as simple as circumstances where I've been able to dedicate more of myself to my business or to what I've been doing. Or like, we can sit here and talk about success, man, but it's all about how you quantify it, because you were the strongest team in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And man, to be honest with you, like I consider myself like a grade D bodybuilder, like if even that,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not in my sport, I'm nowhere near, not even on the same playing field as what you've done in yours. So I don't know if that's as much of a fair comparison. So again, I would say maybe it depends on how you quantify that. But as far as like habits go towards success, I think it's a game of efficiency. I think it's a game of conscious habits. So paying attention. But I don't know, man. Like I haven't really sat down and dissected it,
That actually provided a lot more clarity than I thought it was going to.
What do you mean?
Well, I guess what I understand from what you're saying is, at the end of the day, it was just effort put in different areas
Different
of
buckets.
your life. Yeah. I put a lot of effort in to powerlifting, and then in your case, you put a lot of effort toward your career.
Yeah. Well, and what I will say is like just kind of some ways, and maybe luck is the wrong word, but there's just some ways that like that effort ended up lucky for me. Because man, to be honest, like when I first started diving into the world of biomechanics and trying to find mentors and trying to learn, the way the body works, like it was always for me. Like it was never for my business. I mean, maybe as a personal trainer, sure, but it was always because I wanted to be better at bodybuilding. I wanted to be better at training, and luckily for me, nothing worked. Like I couldn't just go do 3 sets of 10 on bench and 3 sets of 10 on pull downs and grow.
Yeah.
Like it didn't work for me. I just hurt, and so I'm actually like extremely grateful for not having the best genes in the world, because it forced me to go and learn. But to be honest, like it just happened to be that I was able to take that into what my business was. But part of that was knowing that I was going to be in the health and wellness space, so just dedicating myself to that. But so I would consider that more like, maybe not luck, but just the fact that like, hey, I was doing this more for me, but because of the career I chose, I've been able to like dive into this. And I think it's with your business and what you're doing, it's not fitness related, but with my business and what I'm doing, it's fitness related. So like
Your passions just fall in with each other.
Yeah, and so like I've had skin in the game in the gym since I was 14. So that's 10 years now, man.
Yeah.
Versus you've had skin in the game in your respective business for a year and some change, 2 years.
Yeah.
So man. So it's not it's harder to compare, and
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah, I think that's really where maybe the difference comes about. But I wouldn't say like don't for a second think you're doing anything wrong or think I have some kind of secret or something like that.
No, I guess
like,
that I just wanted to like learn and get some insight. But you bring up a good point. Like at the end of the day, 2 different lives.
Yeah, well, and I've also always been lucky enough to never feel like I need anyone's permission to do things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, I want to be a personal trainer, now I want to be an independent personal trainer, now I want to be an actual business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I never felt like I couldn't, or I always had the mentality of like, why not me? And I still do, and I think everybody should. And that's a big part of like how I approach it with my clients and everything is like, everyone sees these these crazy body transformations online. This person was 150 pounds overweight, and now they're shredded with a six pack. And when you look at that and you're like, oh, that's a human being. I'm a human being. Why not me? What's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Like when you have the self-belief, confidence, whatever you want to call it, to do that, and then you stack it with some work ethic, like it's pretty dangerous, in a good way.
Yeah. So when does it get to the point, in your opinion, where, you do ask yourself, why not me? But it becomes unfair to yourself because, you're holding yourself up to somebody else's, standards. And, like you're saying, it can be a good thing. It can drive you.
Yeah.
And, if you're able to believe in yourself to achieve, somebody else's, lifestyle.
Sure. Or this goal or whatever somebody else did. Yeah.
When does it get to the point where you just feel like it's unfair because you're not achieving that other person's lifestyle that you set out to achieve? Because I feel like there's been points where, I saw somebody that, their lifestyle or whatever, I wanted to
emulate or have.
Yeah, emulate. And with some people, I was able to emulate, and maybe I was even able to surpass what they did.
Sure.
And, obviously that feels good. But then there's some people where I, try to emulate just as much as I try over here. But it gets to the point where just some point I just think that it's like I start feeling like it's unfair and almost like an inferiority complex. Like maybe
I think
that's hard. Maybe I worded that wrong.
I've never, and I hate to sound like super dramatic and edgy here, but I don't think anything about life is fair.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any rule of the universe that things are fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that from a standpoint of I've been very lucky in tons of areas in my life, but to revert back to the physical, I'm 5'6". I got a small bone frame. I was terrible at every sport I ever played. I played on a basketball team that scored one goal the entire season. I placed 4 out of 4 at my first bodybuilding competition. You know what I mean? Like I just have never. I never had, what's the word I'm looking for? The gift there or whatever, the fairness there.
Yeah.
It never came for me.
Mm-hmm.
It always felt unfair. But so I think because of that, you become a little relentless.
Mm-hmm.
It's you have to just get up at the plate every time.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is how you handle failure, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man, when you fail, like, do you fall off the horse and want to quit, or does it fire you up and make you want to work a little harder?
Yeah.
When I just placed 8 out of 9 at this last bodybuilding show, man.
Mm-hmm.
8 out of 9, and I've been bodybuilding for like 6 years,
yeah.
8 years, something like that. But so you have 2 different ways you can look at it, man. Either like, all right, I want to give up and try something else, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like if it's not what you want, and in whatever aspect of life, I'm just using bodybuilding as an example, but at the same time, it's like, okay, sweet, now I know what needs to be better. Let me get to work on it, and you attack it a little bit more. I think the name of the game with the whole fairness and unfair and feeling inferior and things like that is just to live on the offensive, man. Always be willing to work a little harder than the next guy. And I've always had this thing too, where, and again, maybe it sounds a little dramatic and a little edgy, but like, I know maybe I won't work harder than that person in that amount of time, but maybe I'll wake up earlier, or maybe I'll make the extra call, or maybe I'll do, so I've always known that I'll do the thing that the other person won't.
You'll out-edge them in some way.
Yeah, I'll find some way, and it doesn't, and it's not always, sometimes it's not pure work ethic. Sometimes it's not, outsmarting them. Sometimes it's, you learn to play to your strengths, and you learn how to build that confidence in knowing that nobody else is doing what you're doing. When I was 16, I spent a month where I would sleep 4 hours a night so I could work full time and go to school. And so so my days were essentially, I would get up at 5. I'd get up at 4 so I could be at the gym at 5 so I could train for 2 hours and then go straight to school, and then I would go straight to work, and then I would get home at midnight, and then I would go to bed and do it all over again. And so obviously way more bad than good done there.
Yeah.
But it was just like at that time, like, yes, it was exhausting, but like I knew that I was doing things nobody else was. And as a 16-year-old, like, whatever the game is, it kind of got me ahead of the game, you know, like I had learned how to like put that foot forward to grind a little bit harder, I guess, if that's the right way to put it. So I don't know if any of that, you know, answers that, but I think the biggest thing is learning how to lose and learning what you can do to be better.
It sounds like it's just you deciding to take like full responsibility.
It is, yeah.
Even if it's, you know, out of your control.
It
and
is.
Maybe in the, you know, in somebody else's eyes, if they were in your shoes, they would say that it's unfair. You're choosing to say, hey, no, like, this is my life.
Yeah.
It's not unfair because I choose for it not to be unfair.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And again, I'm gonna circle back to the bodybuilding thing, and it's like I can't say it's unfair that I haven't done, you know, crazy well in bodybuilding shows before, because I'm the one that signed up for the show every single time.
Yeah.
I'm the one that maybe didn't do something I could have done. I'm the one that chose a bodybuilding path knowing what my bone frame is, knowing what my potential might be. You know what I mean?
You're the one that got on stage that was probably with people that were just
sure, man. So it's
maybe.
Yeah. And so maybe it's an apples to oranges conversation, but at the same time, like, you know, I have two things. I can get mad and make excuses and say, well, that guy this and that guy that, but at the end of the day, there is nothing I can do about that guy, but there's everything I can do about this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm going to focus on the things I can, and maybe next time it'll be in my favor. If not, it'll be the next time. If not, it'll be the next time. You know, and so I think the name of the game is knowing how to lose and knowing how to get back up to bat.
Yeah. Real quick, a little bit of context that can maybe add to this. Whenever I was feeling those feelings of like inferiority and unfairness and just all of that stuff, that was when, you know, I was playing the victim card, and that was when like my mentality was just a victimhood mentality. You know, everything was against me and all of that. And now, like, it hasn't been like that for a good year now.
Yeah.
And it's empowering as hell to take like full responsibility of your life.
Yeah.
And full responsibility of, you know, where you are, the situations, good or bad.
Yeah.
Because exactly like you said, at least with that, you're in control.
Yeah, you can.
You know?
You're in the driver's seat, man. And so it there's a lot more freedom there when you can own that, when you can accept that. So
isn't that Jocko's book?
That's
what is it called?
Extreme Ownership.
Yeah, Extreme Ownership.
I think I lent out, so I think I actually don't have a copy here.
I think you lent it to me for a long time, and then I gave it back.
You did give me it back. I think I lent it to someone else, and they actually ended up not giving it back or something like that.
That is a really good book,
but that's a big one, man. Extreme Ownership. It's funny that you brought that up, because that's like the first self-development I ever read when I was
really?
like, yeah, man, I was like 17 maybe, maybe 16. I'm trying to I don't remember how I actually had heard about Jocko, but yeah, so it's just when you do that, it puts you in that driver's seat, man. There's no more blame to be put away, and what you find is it's so empowering, man. It's so, because suddenly, like, you're driving, you're in control, and like you learn to stop sweating the things that you can't control. Like, you know, if you're sick, you're sick.
Yeah.
You know, if you're short, you're short. If you have bad genes, you have bad genes. But like, none of these things mean that like you're incapable. None of these things mean that you can't. You know,
because there's always some other route.
Yeah. Well, and on the flip side, man, like, there's always some other argument to be made for the other side. Like,
yeah, true.
You know, like, I could sit here and say, well, I'm 5'6", and I'm on a small bone frame, so bodybuilding's not for me. But there might be some guy out there who's, you know, 6'6", and his shoulders are like this wide. So bodybuilding's not for him because he looks like a string bean.
But maybe swimming is for him.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, but so that's my point, though, is like, it's the grass seems like it's always greener, but I feel like half the time it's not. It's not always greener on the other side, man.
Yeah.
Like, the person that you're looking at or comparing yourself to has just figured out how to play their cards better than you've learned how to play yours.
Yes.
You know, I think at the end of the day, man, at the end of the day, like we're all given a certain hand of cards and it's how you play them. You know, and it would be bullshit to say that some people's cards can, or it would be bullshit not to acknowledge that some people's cards will take them way farther than other people's cards. But what the hell are you going to do? I mean, they're out of your, it's not your choice. You know what I mean? Like if you were born in a certain place or with a certain, you know, it doesn't mean you can't get out of that, but your baseline is different. You know, where you're starting from is different. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the sooner that you acknowledge it and stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and direct your effort to what you're doing, you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
You can go where you want to go. It's nothing but empowering.
Hell yeah. So besides personal responsibility and, you know, not being scared of failure and discipline, do you think that there are some other characteristics that you have that brought you to where you are right now? And one of them, just to put it in more context, one of the things that pop up in my mind is how analytical you are and how far into the future you see. And, you know, you kind of bring those things together to create the best possible present that you can do in order to, you know, sustain that long term and achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. Yeah. So are there any other characteristics?
For that, you know, I think that might be a little bit more of a personality style because, like, I do think that there's a lot of things that I do that I don't want to say are a waste of energy or a waste of effort, but might not be super necessary, but they just help me stay on the path. And so I know for me personally, like a big reason that I do plan so far in the future, I try to look at things, you know, as grand scheme as I can is because I kind of live in a world of anxiety, man, if I don't. So, like, if I'm not sure that I'm going to make, you know, this amount of money this month to pay for these bills, like, that's all I can think about.
Yeah.
So I've got to be sure that, like, I'm in a certain scenario at come this time, you know, or with a bodybuilding show, you know, if I want to be sure that I'm going to be, you know, at a certain body weight or in a certain shape. If I want to be a certain body weight or a certain shape at a certain time, like, I need to plan ahead for that. Yeah. I need to be sure that I'm on it. So I don't know. I would say that that's like a personality, like type A thing. But if you're talking about just characteristics, I would say, yeah, planning for sure. Like having some sort of structure, and that structure could be as loose or as tight as you want it to be, but it's got to exist. You know, it can be you wake up at this time and then you do these things in order. You know, it can be whatever you want it to be, man. But the name of the game, I think, is structure because, like we've talked about in different pursuits before, I don't think anyone stumbles upon their goals. Yeah. You don't close your eyes and open them and you're there. You hike there, man. You path there. You take steps to get there. It never just happens accidentally.
Not only that, you make the goal in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. You have to actually set a goal. That's a big piece of it, man. So, yeah, I don't know about like characteristics or anything like that, but I would say the more type A, the better.
Yep.
The more you can plan, the better. Now, of course, there's obviously drawbacks eventually, and, you know, maybe there's some things that aren't worth it, but I would say the name of the game is getting ahead of the game.
Yeah, I feel like the more that you say type A and the more that you associate it with those, you know, things that you're saying, the planning and all of that, the more I'm realizing that it's just type, or at least this is what I'm going to say. I don't know if it's, you know, exactly what type A is, but type A just sounds more and more like accepting reality and then just, like you said, planning for it. It's finding where you are right now exactly and where you want to be, and then creating the steps that are necessary to reach where you want to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Making it it's just like clarifying your life. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
clarifying parts of your life.
You're not going to float. You're not going to stumble. I would say, you know, maybe one thing too within that, because if we're going to talk about goal setting, if we're going to talk about creating structure and things like that, like I think we also have to talk about being able to make decisions. So being willing to give something up for something else. You know?
Sacrifice, yeah.
Yeah, so like for me, it was like, okay, if I want to be able to bodybuild and work full time, I don't get to have friends right now, or I don't get to socialize with my friends as often as I'd like right now, or I don't get to play video games right now, or you know what I mean? Like I don't, and I shouldn't even say it like that. I shouldn't say I don't get to. I should say I'm choosing not to because I've picked this instead.
Yeah.
Because I want this outcome. I want this thing instead. So I think a big part of that is like being able to make the decision around that. And sometimes people are afraid of making the wrong decision. Like, you know, what if I choose to be a personal trainer, but I end up not liking it and I want to do something different? Then go do something different.
Yeah.
But make a choice and commit to it and stick with it and see what happens. If you don't like it, you can change. Yeah, exactly. If you don't like it, you can change later. But being able to like actually make that decision, I think is a killer component, because that's being able to make that decision is what takes you from floating to being on a path, from stumbling to having a direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to making decisions, I feel like you can make them two ways. You can passively make decisions, and you can like consciously make decisions. So this kind of goes back to the last podcast, but it feels really empowering to consciously make decisions. So what I mean by like passively make decisions is, let's say, you know, you're hungry and you go to your kitchen and you just start, you know, grabbing food and you put it together and you just eat it. You know, you don't really have a reason for eating it. You don't have just any reason to your decision at all. But a conscious decision would be like, okay, so I'm trying to get strong for powerlifting, but I also don't want to become a, you know, unhealthy diabetic or something like that. So let me see what type of food I need to be eating. Okay, so let me grab the pork, or for me, you know, it's pork loin, and let me start making some brown rice instead of, you know, I don't know, a sandwich in the fridge or something like that. And making these conscious decisions that actually benefit some kind of end goal.
Yeah.
Feels good, because it makes me feel like I'm on track for something instead of just mindlessly going about my day.
Yeah, because the sooner you decide what your goal is or what your path is, or you can start making other decisions that align with that. You know, to your point, like you pick the pork loin and the brown rice or whatever it is that you're eating at the time. When you know that you're going to pick that, you know you're not going to pick the other thing because it's in alignment with your goal.
Yeah.
Right? It's in alignment with the decision you've made. And so as soon as you can, I would say a big part of this is maybe like placing your values within your goal, right? If you're valuing your health and you want to get somewhere, you want to lose a certain amount of body fat, you want to build a certain amount of muscle, suddenly you have to make decisions relating to that. Mm-hmm. So. And
you feel, also, I've had like a big problem with leisure and just, you know, giving myself some breaks sometimes. Yeah. And whenever I'm making these conscious decisions and I consciously make a decision to chill out or do something fun specifically just for the sake of leisure, it makes me feel less guilty.
Yeah.
And not only that, I understand the purpose behind the decision. So I don't know. It aligns with my values, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not pleasant on vacation, man. It's so hard for me to do that, you know. So
and I feel like that would be, you know, because you're not making that conscious decision, or are you making that conscious decision to, you know, put off work completely
and not well enough, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing too, is like knowing what you're making each decision for, you know, because to your point, like there's a difference between, hey, I'm gonna play video games for an hour because it's gonna help me rest and recharge. Whoa, must be somebody here. Because I'm gonna rest and recharge for an hour, or because we'll cut, you know, cut that.
Yep.
Fuck, I forgot what I was talking about.
Very good. Making conscious decision when it comes to video games.
Oh, yeah, and so if I make a
29.
Yeah, and so if I make a conscious decision to rest and relax, it's a lot easier than just resting and relaxing. Because if I just start, you know, laying around on the couch or something, I'm going to start feeling like I'm not doing the things towards my goals. Yeah. But if I'm like, hey, I know that I'm going to be better tomorrow if I give myself an hour of leisure time today or to relax today, I'm going to be better tomorrow because of it.
Yeah.
You know? So a lot of it is like just framing that context, man. So, but anyways, man, I think that's everything I got for this one.
Yeah, same here.
Cool. PTC Cast episode 9, right? 9?
Episode 9, baby.
Sweet. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you as always. You can follow us at Progress Through Change. My personal bodybuilding log is at Alex Chris Martin. This is
Cholito Saldana. My Instagram is at Cholito Saldana.
And it'll be in the bio below, or in the description below. If y'all have any questions or podcast topics to recommend, let us know. We'll catch you in the next one.
See you.